Hey guys, Peter here to do my favorite 5 albums of the month of February. The month is almost over. Time to look back, recap, and put together my top 5 releases of the month. I'm going to go through them in chronological order to make things easier. First album I want to mention is Corpo Clanny with Jylhä, out February 5th on Nuclear Blast. Now this is Corpo Clanny's 11th record. They're a folk metal band from Helsinki, and this is one of their strongest albums to date. I'm not going to make an argument as far as this being their best album to date. I think you can make that argument, but this to me is definitely one of their strongest albums to date. It's very diverse, it's very eclectic, it has different approaches as far as the soundscape is concerned, and it is very heavy, at least heavier than what we've seen from this band in the past. A lot of it has to do with the drums, a lot of it has to do with the guitars, but perhaps most of all is how those two elements interact with each other as you progress through this record. Even in the more folky tracks, you still feel like the guitars and drums pack a huge bite. They really add a lot of sound, they add a lot of layers, they add a lot of presence. And when you take a step back and you look at this record, regardless of how each and every single song feels, overall the presence that you get from it is that this is one of their heaviest albums. It just has a lot of sound, it just has a lot of power, a lot of strength, a lot of intent. Next on my list is Harakiri for the Sky with Mære, out February 19th on A&P-REACTS. This is the band's 5th album. They're a post-black metal band from Austria, and this is a very incredibly well-tight, well-connected, well-constructed record. Atmosphere is perhaps the key word for this album, and how you process it, and how you feel it, and how you will digest it. It definitely permeates and allows the album to have different approaches from song to song, have almost different soundscapes, but keeping the atmosphere intact across the whole record is really the winning formula for this band and for this album. It allows you to feel different emotions, different perspectives, listen to different sounds, different approaches, but overall, the essence that you get out of this album is pretty much cohesive throughout every single song because of that atmosphere that holds everything together. Next comes Epica with Omega, out February 26th on Nuclear Blast. This is the band's 10th album. They're a symphonic metal band, and this is their best album to date. I know it sounds cliche. I know we're talking about a band that's released 10 records, including this one, so I'm sure you can make an argument for other records being stronger than Omega. I'm willing to take this on. I'm willing to take this battle. I'm willing to die on this hill. This is where I'm drawing the line. To me, this is their strongest record to date. I love the sound that this album has. It's very robust. It has a big wall of sound coming at you on every single track, but that sound is so well defined. You can hear every single element in it. It's an album that has two different sides to the same coin. You get to hear the big wall of sound, that big cinematic presence on every single turn with every single track, and at the same time you can break down every single song and really be able to define all the different elements that went in constructing that track, that went into making this big cinematic presence that this album has. Simone's vocals are just outstanding throughout the record. The soundscape is outstanding. The way this album comes together, the way it flows, how dynamic it is. This is just their best album to date. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Next comes Evergrey with Escape of the Phoenix, out February 26th on AFM Records. This is the band's 12th album. They're a prog melodic metal band from Sweden, and this is a very interesting record because it's an interesting record in terms of how it's constructed, in terms of how it's delivered, and it continues down the line of incredible records by Evergrey. When have these guys ever released a bad album? I can't think of it. They are so consistent in the output of their records and their music and how they construct tracks and how those tracks then blend with one another in order to create a very dynamic, a very bombastic, very melodic with different levels, different eyesights for the listener as far as the overall records are concerned. And this album is no different. It just continues on everything that they've built up until this point. This is a band that seems to get better with every single record that they release. There are not many bands out there that can say that or that can do that. Always keeping themselves on the forefront, being creative, creating good sounding records, putting forward interesting albums as far as how dynamic they are, how diverse they are, still staying connected, never losing track of what is the DNA of the band, what is the sound that the band has and the expectations that fans have on them, and then elevating the bar with every single release. And that stays true with Escape of the Phoenix. The last album on my list is Moonspell, Hermitage, out February 26 on Napalm Records. This is the band's 13th album. They're a gothic doom metal band from Portugal, and this is a classic album for them because it merges everything that they've done in their past. I'm not saying that they took elements and just brought them to the forefront, brought them forward into the future, and then brought them all together. This is not a greatest hits, let's face the fact. But it is an album that does offer a little bit of a glimpse into everything that the band has done. It's just put together in a more crafted kind of way. It also shows the growth. So perhaps the elements have been there from the beginning of their career, from the first album all the way until now. Maybe a little bit more unpolished, if you will, because of where they were in that time. What was the time frame? What was their experience when they created those records? And now they were able to go back, pick some of those elements that make their sound unique, that makes their sound what it is, but with the experience that they have, with the knowledge that they've gained over the past 12 records, this is their 13th album, they were able to make those elements come to life in a different way while still keeping the DNA of the band intact. This is an incredible sounding record. It sounds big, it sounds great, very well defined in its volume, very well defined in the quality of approach that it has within its walls. An album that's very dynamic, that changes the eyesight of the listener every so often as you progress through the record, never getting boring, never getting repetitive, offering you different feels, different looks, different emotions from a lyrical perspective, also giving you different lyrical contents as you progress through it. Also, that goes back to a little bit of the history of the band and what they have done lyrically in the past. So everything is coming full circle. This is an album that really feels like reaching the top of the mountain, finally understanding who you are as a band, what you have done in the past, how can you bring some of those elements that you really enjoy on the previous records, but polishing them, creating a different look, a different feel, bringing all the knowledge that you've gained, all the knowledge that you currently have, and bringing them together in order to create one of their strongest albums that, like I said, it has elements of a greatest hits because of how it brings them all together, but it's definitely a brand new record with a brand new sound, with a brand new delivery. This is it, guys. These are my top 5 favorite albums, metal albums of the month of February. Let me know what your top 5 are. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those because I want to make sure I didn't miss any record for this month. See ya.